First time?
Alright, welcome everybody to another Chucky video. Now, we're doing a video today because, instead of Saturday, because I thought these changes went live today. I've tested them a little bit, and I have some things to say. So, normally, most of you know I'm very optimistic. Anytime Chucky has been changed over the past year, I have been advocating for the idea that most of these changes have been decently good and haven't really affected the character in a way that significantly nerfs him. Before I say anything for the rest of this, I do want to say I don't think Chucky should be S tier. I don't think he should be one of the best killers in the game. I don't think that at all. But at the very least, he should still feel good to play. And with these current changes, he does not feel good to play. I know some are arguing this is a side grade, which I might agree with, but that's not the point I think a lot of me and other Chucky players are making, is that it's not a matter of strength, it's a matter of how good he feels to play. And I know I repeated myself like 6 times there. So what were the changes for those who don't know? So they increased his cooldown to 14 seconds, it was 12. They increased the slice and dice duration to 1.8 seconds, it was 1.2 seconds. And they decreased the slice and dice movement speed to 8 meters a second, it was 10 meters a second. So after some distance testing, which I did on stream, we learned, so the previous distances were a slice and dice at standing still was about 16 meters. We did this testing with Kindred and with Yardstick, which both are 16 meters away, which allowed us to perfectly test this. That was while standing still. While moving, the distance was about 20 meters. Now, with the current changes, the distance you gain is about 4 extra meters. So you go from 16 to 20 meters while standing still, and 22 meters while you're moving and charging. Now, you might be asking, how does that math work? Shouldn't you get 4 meters on both? Well, because of how Chucky's acceleration works, because for those who don't know, he doesn't get his full speed at the beginning of the dash unless he scampers. If he just slice and dices in the middle of the field without a scamper, he actually has to ramp up to his speed. And because it lasts longer, it actually takes longer to get to his max speed. So it kind of messed it up there. Now, is this change a completely bad idea? No, I don't think this change is a bad idea at all. I understand what they were trying to do with this change. The point of this change was to make the slice and dice more reactable, so it's easier to dodge. However, I think this made it too easy to dodge. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the greatest Chucky player in the world, because I'm not, but I was not able to land a very lot of slice and dices that I normally would be able to after these changes. Chucky used to be the king of Shack. He's no longer the king of Shack. It's too slow. You cannot get people going towards the window or through the doorway or even at the pallet. He can't really play Shack too well anymore. On top of that, combined with the 14-second cooldown, because here's the thing, if this was just the 14-second cooldown, which I also think is a bit much, but I can live with a 14-second cooldown, I think it would have been fine. But the fact that it's both of these at the same time, after the PTB changes already happened, and his play rate is already going down, this just seemed very bad to do. So I am not the person to just complain and not give suggestions. So here's basically my suggestions here. There are 3 routes you can go with making slice and dice more reactable. Behavior chose to lower the speed, which gives survivors more time to take in what's happening and move out of the way. Here is my suggestion to what they need to do. I think they need to give the Silk Pillow increased charge time base kit. Maybe slightly lower, but I think the 50% increased charge time from Silk Pillow gives survivors enough time to round a corner if they are at one and need be, without making the slice and dice itself feel clunky. Yes, it will feel a little clunky to charge it a bit, but again, I think that's perfectly fine. Again, don't do it now, but before this, most people who tried Silk Pillow long enough would tell you that eventually you get used to it and it's not that bad. Now, what about the third option? The third option is one that many have brought up, which is, quote, fixing the hitbox. The problem with this one is that if you make it too accurate, which is what many people want, it will lead to pretty much the same thing and make him more frustrating, landing a bunch of hits or not being able to land a lot of hits because of the bad hitbox and making him virtually useless at a lot of pallets, which he already is. The thing is here, I do like the increased distance. Before anyone says anything, I do think the increased distance does make scampering feel a lot better. But there are a lot of loops where it feels like you don't have a power, and at the end of the day, you're just a 110% movement speed killer. I've also heard suggestions to make him 115 after this change. Do not do this. Do not do this. I repeat, do not do this. Making Chucky 115 doesn't solve anything and would actually make him a lot more frustrating to go against. The 5% movement speed doesn't seem like much going around the map, which it's not, but doing it at loops, because of his hitbox, will actually make him virtually 117 movement speed, because he can hug the loops tighter because he's smaller. Which would just feel miserable to go against on the Survivor side. On top of the fact that you can't see him, so if he is hiding around a corner or mind gaming you in some way, he can do it much easier and much faster. Again, behavior, I am asking, and a lot of the Chucky community is asking. There's also a forum post below here from someone else who brought all of this and said much more than I did here. That I would like any Chucky players to go to and at least hear out. Again, I think the 14-second cooldown is fine. As much as I do kind of think it feels clunky, I only think it feels as bad as it does because it's in combination with these hits. The thing is, though, I will say his scamper does feel much better at the loops it can be used at. The thing is, it can't be used at every loop. And if a survivor knows what they're doing, they're not usually getting hit with scamper. If they're just patient, they're probably not getting hit with it, unfortunately. This goes into Chuck spots, builds, and things like that. Honestly speaking, the best build I found for him after playing with him for about 3 or 4 hours on stream, which I know isn't a lot, but it's enough, I feel, to get a general idea. Rapid Brutality plus Hairspray Can and Jump Rope. This combination allowed you to get double taps much easier and was very, very effective against a lot of survivors at a lot of loops. Because usually when a survivor gets M1, if you can get the M1, because again, you are 110, if you can get the M1 and then you can follow up with a slice and dice immediately because of rapid, that 5% movement speed does carry over, which is very nice and can usually get you fast, really, really fast downs. Corrupt Intervention also used to be required on him anyways. Now it's almost set in stone. You cannot move this. Brutal Strength is also almost completely necessary because of a lot of the palettes you can't really play around very well anymore. And for the last perk, it really depends on your playstyle, but I've been using Genetic Limits because now, because of the slower movement speed, he doesn't counter Sprint Burst or Life anymore, and he also is much easier to dead hard now because of how slow he is. Again, behavior, I get what the idea here was, but I do not want my killer to go into Skull Merchant territory. I know some people are enjoying this. His pick rate was already going down. People didn't like him going to 12-second cooldown. Going to 14, I think, is fine. And I think the people complaining about the cooldown are a bit much. But making it also slower on top of that, it's just too much at once. Again, this is one of my biggest criticisms of behavior on a lot of the changes they make. I think they make too many changes to one thing too much. I said this years ago about Iron Will in the 6.1 patch when they made it if you're exhausted and only 75%. I think it should have only been one or the other, and lo and behold, about 3 or 4 years later, they went back on that and made it so it was only when you were exhausted. And I think that's the problem I have with behavior with their balancing decisions. A lot of times, I don't think they necessarily overcompensate, but they do a lot of changes when one would have sufficed, and we could have tested that one and then added onto that. Do I think this is going to stay? I don't know. I don't want it to. And behavior, if you're listening, I do think it should be reverted and made the charge time on Silk Pillow. Or, honestly, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I would live with a 9 movement speed, or 9 meters a second instead of 10. I think that would be perfectly fine. The other issue here, and this is a personal one, but you still get the white bars around you, but you're moving so slow that it doesn't feel like you're moving fast, and it's building a little cognitive dissonance. It's like Never Sleep Pills on Legion. You still get the white speed bars even though you're not going any faster, so it kind of feels weird. But, yeah, behavior into the community. The only things I want to leave here is to the Chucky mains who were celebrating Skull Merchant getting nerfed into the ground and gutted and changed into a completely different killer until she is not played anymore until her rework next year. It looks like we might be heading there. And I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. I think Chucky will still be fine. He is definitely not top 10 anymore. I will say that right now. He is probably mid-grade B, right under Vecna, in my opinion. That could move around, which I think is okay. Again, this isn't a debate about strength. I don't care about strength. If they have the Silk Pillow base kit for the charge time and it makes him, like, he's still really bad and somehow it makes him C tier, I don't care. I think it would still feel better. And that's the thing with all of this. I just don't think it feels good. In any case, I appreciate you guys listening to me rant for 10 minutes. I know this is one of, and again, this might be because I'm too deep into the weeds on this. This is one of the most contentious things I've seen. I've seen some Chucky players say this is really good. Some say it's really bad. I've seen some of the community really enjoy it. Some of the community really hate it. I've seen some Survivor mains say it's great. I've seen some Survivor mains say it makes them too easy to dodge. There's just a lot of issues with this. I'm going to say revert it and add the charge time from Silk Pillow. That's where I'm going to end this. Keep the 14-second cooldown. I would be perfectly okay with that. I think that is more than reasonable enough. It means you can run Power Drill if you want to make it more viable. Or, hear me out, we could, for the first time in Chucky's history, make his cooldown an odd number and make it 13 seconds, so we're all happy. In any case, I love you guys. Have a good one, and bye.
Subscribe, damn it. I'll be back. I always come back, and so should you, you moron.